Good evening. And you look surprised, Mike. And welcome to the Wednesday, April 2nd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda is to vote minutes. We do not have the minutes of the 19th, so we're not going to vote those.
March 19th.
What did I say? Oh, March 19th. Well, we don't have any minutes of the 19th.
No.
No, Susan, Madam Chairman, you received February 26th,
Yep.
2014.
Right,
Oh, okay.
I know that. Now I'm going to talk about February 26th. What's the one? That's
Oh.
not the one.
This is the one, this is February 26th.
Is that the one we want?
That is the one that we want to get corrected. Here you go.
Okay, and we'll just pass this on to you. But Courtney moved up for it was 5 Foster Road, McGann. Courtney moved to issue an order of conditions for the project as presented. We always do put a positive motion on the
Right.
floor,
But I feel,
but the vote was 4 against and 1 for. You have the opposite.
So yeah.
You had 4 yea, 1 nay.
oh,
It was
sorry.
1,
I know that.
yeah,
4 nay, 1 nay.
Okay.
yeah, but we'll give that to you.
Okay.
Any other changes, Mike?
There's one additional change for that, referring to
What page?
page 6 on 378 Acus Pesket. It would, from the new corner, is 7 feet, not 17 feet.
Okay.
There were minor other clarifications, but I can just hand these to you.
Yeah.
Those are the only two of substance. I move to accept the minutes of February 26th.
With the changes.
With the changes.
With the
discussed.
changes. Where's the change?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. March 12th.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the minutes of March
I have
12th.
one minor change. Jen, this is in the Billings, I think. Yeah, it's in the Billings hearing. Jen added the defendant's memorandum in support of its opposition to plaintiff's motion, and also, this says memorandum, but it was court decision in the Smythe case
Okay.
on page 6.
So I'll move to accept the minutes as discussed and with the change.
Good.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. And the minutes of March 26th.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the minutes of March 26th. I
Second.
have one minor clarification
Sorry.
under wording on page 2, but I can pass that along. It doesn't change
I
the
have a-
substance.
Yeah, well, there's 2 minor clarifications, so I'll change. This is TMDL.
TMVL, there you go.
So, is that your motion?
That's my motion.
All right, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay. Okay, request to continue under hearings of a notice of intent. Branch and Colleen Parish, 352 West Falmouth Highway, West Falmouth, for permission to construct an addition with stairs to relocate the existing septic system, remove a tree, move the path west, remove invasive vines from wetland plants, install native tree and shrub species, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff recommends -2 under the bylaw and -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Wait a minute, we're,
Oops,
No.
I'm sorry. You know what, I had the continuance in my hand, then I jumped to that. Mr. Parrish would like a continuance until April 16th.
To request the applicant, I move that we continue this to the 16th, and the reason is?
Oh, we're still working with them on the plan.
Okay.
We met out there the other day, Mark, myself, the applicant, the applicant's representative.
What's the date on it?
16th.
16th.
April 16th, yes.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Next.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to continue Parish 352 West Falmouth Highway to April 16th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request for determination of applicability. Ma'am, are you here for an RDA? Okay. Adam Brown, 10 Water's Edge, East Falmouth, for permission to construct an outdoor shower and shed, expand the deck, and install a dry well.
Now the staff would like to recommend, and that's a -2 under the bylaw, -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
We have two motions. Could I have a second from
You
you?
got a second.
Two motions and a second. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, which means they can go ahead and do the work as discussed. Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Continued request for determination of applicability. Pamela Cohn, 396 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, for permission to remove the existing 10-foot by 34-foot deck and rebuild in the same size.
Yes, Madam Chairman, staff is recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So move.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination.
All those in favor?
We're having a
I
tough
don't
night.
quite have enough energy tonight. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We gotta
All
go drinking
opposed?
after, not before the meeting.
Unanimous, so moved. Okay, request for hearings under a notice of intent, Branch and Colleen Parish, 352 West Falmouth Highway, has been continued to April 16th. Continued request for hearings under a notice of intent. Logan and Lisa Huffman, 5 and 11, how do you pronounce this again?
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Ottawa Way, Falmouth, for permission to raise the existing single-family house and four-car garage, remove paved driveway, and construct six-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage, patios, entry porch, stairways, to install walkways, driveway, parking area, AC units, wall, a Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, mitigation planning, to control invasives and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
don't you normally give a speech about?
Oh, I do. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands, I'm already on my trip, Falmouth Wetlands bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Good evening, Mike. Jen, do you have any comments? Mike
Only that.
did a nice job, answered many of our questions.
Oh, yeah.
We're all on the quorum.
You with the quorum?
You're all,
We're all on it.
yeah.
And it's it. There were just four of us. Oh, no, that's four of us this
Yeah,
time.
we got two missing. so-
Mike?
Do you have any? Jen, any comments?
Only that we received the information that the board requested as far as the information from Blue Flax Design.
And also for Mike.
And Mr. Maselli, yes, from the applicant's representative.
Good evening,
Sorry,
Mike.
Mike, I didn't mean to leave you out.
That's fine. For the record, Michael Borselli, I represent the applicant. I'm joined by Teresa Sprague from Blue Flags, and we submitted revised plans. You asked for a few things to be added to our plans and also some information from Teresa. We updated the impervious surface calculations as you suggested. We added a typical cross-section through the terraced walls to the plan, and we adjusted the limit of work around the 48-inch beech tree. And we added some additional drainage to the driveway in the form of 2 trench drains to intercept runoff from the driveway and put it into a leaching pit. So I think those were all the issues that were raised on with regard to the site plan, and Teresa is here as well, and we're both here to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Good evening, Teresa.
Good evening, sorry. Sorry, I'm going to come on really quickly this evening. I believe the additional information is provided on the site plan we did based on Mike's new impervious surface calculations. Oh, thank you. We added, I didn't have time to count them exactly, but we added a significant number of shrubs to the area where we had previously proposed the mitigation planting. And then, of course, we had already intended to plant the viburnum hedge along the property line and the additional shrubs on the slope leading down towards the new property. So that was totaled the entire area for the mitigation calculations, the 1,287 square feet. I'm sorry, 1,270 square feet. In addition, we provided you, simply with page 10 of the land management plan, rather than reprint the whole plan, the tree removal and restoration. So the total trees removed, proposing to be removed are 10. The total caliper inches are 147. We're proposing to replant 28 trees, which will total about 52 caliper inches. And in addition, we also included the trees that are going to remain within conservation jurisdiction on the site that won't be touched. So that's about an additional 684 inches. And of course, there is a note here that not all trees, particularly down at the bottom of the bank, were located. So there will actually be more trees in caliber inches than are noted here. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the additional mitigation planting or the tree counts.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I just have one question
Yep.
for Mike. Mike, I know we just got the email from OPED. I got it this morning. Is there any way your clients may consider a de-nitrification system to alleviate the concerns of the Oyster Pond Environmental Trust?
I can't commit to that.
I understand that. Is
I
that
can-
something you would engage in, like?
Sure, I'm gonna send them a copy of that letter. That was a
Okay.
nice letter, and they're also going to be modifying the septic for number 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask them about that and see what happens.
Thank you.
Okay, and what we can do is condition it that if there is that change, that's, they can just inform you as to what
Yeah.
it's gonna be.
Yeah.
That's fine.
No amendment.
No,
I have a question. Everything else is in order?
Yep.
DEP number and all that. I'll move to close. Take it under
and take it under
advisement.
advisement.
I'll second
Second.
that.
There you go.
Thank you, Mike.
Any questions?
Great.
Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to close this hearing, take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Teresa?
Thank you.
James Gardner, 4 Little Harbor Road, West Woods Hole, for permission to replace and relocate deck footings, remove debris, hand point and repair the existing stone seawall and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping. This was for a DEP number.
This is for a DEP number, and we told the applicant's representative he did not need to come
Right.
tonight.
And did we get a DEP number?
We have a DEP number.
Okay,
I will move to close and take the hearing under advisement.
Second.
okay, we have, any comments from the audience?
Yes.
Okay, motion on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request to amend the existing order of conditions. John and Patricia Ramey, 80D Little Island Road, West Falmouth, request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP number 253877, to construct a porch, remove and relocate shower, rebuild patio, remove, reconfigure, and add steps and walks, install native mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Madam Chairman, can we table this hearing until the applicant's representative?
Move to table the hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Gene Wright, continued enforcement order. Gene Wright, 19 Miami Avenue, East Falmouth, for clearing, building, and altering wetland resource areas and in buffer to resource areas as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, a few weeks ago, we were alerted by the Department of Natural Resources that work was going on out the property at 19 Miami Ave, specifically the construction of a small stone wall. Mark went out, met with a homeowner's representative. You can see from the pictures that they had constructed a small stone, looks like a landscaping wall along the pond. The intent was to backfill it and plant a vegetable garden. We engaged in conversation with the applicant's representative. We looked at the old files. There is a large amount of natural vegetation that it's not on the property anymore. Compliance was given back in the late 90s. I think it was 98 or 96, off the top of the head, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, the conditions of the buffer plantings were to be ongoing with the deed. So we informed the property owner that we would be having this hearing. Staff's recommendation is that the property come back into compliance, or as close as possible, back into compliance, and that the stone wall be removed. It is in the velocity zone. It is next to a small depression, wetland area, and it is along the shore of Little Pond.
Okay. Hello, Steve?
Good evening, Madam Chairman. For the record, my name is Stephen McKenzie, and I represent Jean Wright. I just want to give you a little background on Jean and her late husband, Tom, who passed away in May. They bought this property in 2006. They had come down to the Cape from Lexington. They had never had any prior experience with conservation commissions in the past. They just didn't have any, they weren't under the jurisdiction. When they bought this property, and I've reviewed both the deed, the title policy, and the attorney's certification of title, there was nothing in anything that would alert them that they had anything to do with conservation. In addition, there was a zoning board of appeals special permit. There's a variance from the Board of Health. There were ongoing conditions with the order of conditions. The certificate of compliance was issued in 1998, but there was nothing to alert them. Everything was a clean policy. A better policy would have been much better to put on the deed, or at least in the title policy, that this property was subject to both the special permit and had the benefit of it, the variance from the Board of Health, and that there were ongoing orders of conditions that ran with the property for which a certificate of compliance had been issued. These folks weren't aware of any of this. So they went out there to do a garden. DNR officers saw them as they were going up Little Pond. They issued a cease and desist order. So that's the background. They were unaware that they were supposed to come here. I got a call. I've sat down with Jen. We've gone through everything, and I've sat down with them. I also researched all the records of the town, the 3 different departments, as well as the registry of deeds, to see where we stand. They acknowledge that they're in violation, and they've done work within the jurisdiction of this commission without obtaining prior approval for that first. So I've sat down with them. We've also retained Mike Vaselli, who's going to work with me. What we'd like to do is, again, acknowledge that they're in violation, work with Mike and expeditiously get a request for a new order of conditions that will bring them back into compliance and in better graces with this board, come back, work expeditiously, get it into Jen, and see what it is that we can put together that would be approvable by the commission and address any mitigation or remediation under the new order for the things that they've already violated. So we'd like to bring them back into compliance and seek to get some approval for some of the things that they'd like to do. Maybe there's something on the property that they can do. They just were wholly unaware that they had to come here first. So they kind of got caught doing stuff because they were unaware of it. So that's the route we'd like to take, and Mike and I have agreed to work as fast as we can to put this all together.
So we can issue an enforcement order with a NOI required here, date certain?
You can do that. You can continue it. So I can speak with Steve and Mike, or you can just, I mean, the bottom line is the property's going to come back into compliance.
Right.
You can absolutely issue an enforcement order with the requirement of a notice of intent by a date certain.
Isn't,
That's what you
That's-
usually do. Usually
what our usual
protocol.
practice is.
Yep.
We've agreed that we could get that to you, I think, by the 16th for your next hearing.
Probably can't get the full notice in by
Maybe
the
not.
6th.
You'd have to get it by
Yeah,
next
look
week.
at
And I said we're working expeditiously, we're gonna try.
Even Tom's laughing.
Why don't we give you a month?
Okay. We would appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll give you some time.
When's our first meeting in May?
It's not due at the first meeting in May. How about the 14th?
Of May?
Yeah, staff, we're gonna be
Yeah.
14th, Steve, does that work for you?
That'll work.
Mike?
As long as it works with Mike.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the board will vote an enforcement hearing, an enforcement order. They'll issue that. Probably on, you can issue that actually right away. I'll have you sign it and then,
We can vote
With
an
the-
enforcement
yeah.
order so you can,
yeah, and then have
Get it
the,
out.
Notice of intent due by May 14th.
that's enough time for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay?
works for me.
Mike?
I'm all set.
Okay?
I'm good.
Okay. How would someone like to make a motion to issue an enforcement order to say what we just said?
I will so move.
We have a second?
Second.
I'm not the only one that doesn't have energy here tonight.
So we're moving to issue an enforcement order with a notice of intent due to be
May
heard
14th.
on May 14th. So it has to, the order has to be, the notice has to be submitted at least a week in advance of that. Is that going to give you time?
Yeah, Mike knows that.
Yeah, that's fine.
In other words, we're
Steve was
We're
trying to
gonna
get him,
hear it
have
on
it
the-
handed in next
we're
week.
going to hear it on the 14th.
I
So,
thought maybe we'd go back and work tonight.
and
And hopefully, no more blizzards will
Exactly.
will
I have a
inhibit
question
this
for
work.
staff. What is your feeling about the stone wall?
The stone wall would need to be removed. Staff made that statement. This
Okay.
property needs to come into compliance with the vegetative cover that was,
Okay.
yeah, there in 98, and that stone wall does need to be removed. It's in a velocity zone.
It wouldn't have been permitted to
It
be
wouldn't have
there in
been
the first
permitted by
place.
this board.
Do we want a condition that that be removed in advance, or is that part of the order?
That'll be part of the order.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue an enforcement order. Any questions? Any questions from the audience?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any such Harriet
You have to speak in the microphone and tell us who you are.
I sprained my ankle.
Oops, sorry.
Is there any fine they ever issue for something like this? I happen to live in the neighborhood, and it seems lately, on Miami Avenue, there's been a lot of people moving shrubs, trees, ripping up the grass, and it always happens on a weekend, such as I do not know the rights. Every single weekend, there's
It's,
frogs
we
get
don't permit,
delivered.
there's no regulation that says you can violate the Wetlands Protection Act on the weekend.
Is there ever a fine issued for things that are being done blatantly? I'm sorry, it's the issue of, I didn't understand, I didn't realize I had to go before conservation. That is ridiculous. I'm a real estate person, I know how the town works. And everybody hides behind that. We didn't know. But is there ever a fine issued so this doesn't happen as much as it's happening?
It's, the first process that we go through is to issue an enforcement and try to get people to come under compliance. And if that doesn't work, then you have to take the following steps. But what I suggest is if you see something blatant, document it and report it to the Conservation Department.
I
That,
have done
you know-
that. And the problem is, I understand they're not allowed to go on the property unless the owner is there. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I'm getting. I know conservation has a lot of things to do, but I've done this, and nothing happens. I've seen it happen time and time again, and Miami Avenue is blatant, blatant. 77 took all the trees down. Nobody could catch that one either. And they're destroying the pond. So I don't know where to go from here. I've done it.
Well, I can just, I mean, you know, we only have so much time and energy and resources, but I would urge you to continue to do it, especially for blatant, for tree and bush removal.
when you kind of give up after a while,
Well, don't give up.
you know,
You
I
came to the
just-
meeting.
It just doesn't seem to happen. And you're like, you make an enemy because you have a neighbor. Well, all of a sudden, why did you complain? And I know how hard conservation works. I was born and brought up here. I know how hard it is for town to get out there. But it always happens on a weekend when nobody can get out there.
Well, I know, many of our violations are on weekends, unfortunately.
If you, give me a call tomorrow, I'll give you a number that you can
Great.
call on the weekends.
Yeah, we can-
Marine and Environmental Services Department does work on the weekends.
Right.
They're one of the people that alerted us to this. So they are around, and if they are available, they can go to the site on the weekend. And I can
All right,
give
that would
you-
help.
I can give you those numbers.
That would help, because once that big tree was removed on the right property, they have the most fantastic view of Nantucket Sound I've ever seen.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
Courtney, did you have a question or just
Just a comment.
Yeah.
I've sat on this commission for close to 11 years, and like you, it really upsets me when people take the law and ignore these regulations, and I absolutely agree with you. I cannot buy, and the law doesn't allow for, oh, I didn't know. You know, I mean, ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's an old saying. So these folks now, this has been brought to our attention, and we're following a process here. And quite honestly, by the time these folks get through bringing this into compliance, they will have incurred a fair amount of expense, not only an expense of physically restoring the area, but also the expense of the gentleman standing before us at the podium, the expense of Mike Borselli to do the engineering. So there'll be some pain inflicted here. And those are the best weapons we have. But we also need to have citizens who see violations let us know, instead of just sitting there going, oh my God, it's going on. Because if enough of these things are brought to our attention, eventually the message gets out there that you know, that there's more pain to cutting down a tree than you know, they might have thought.
I have one other question for you. Do you have a neighborhood association?
No, we don't.
You don't?
People see it, and they, a lot of them are afraid to say anything, basically. Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
But it's been really playing my mind, it's been awful. I mean, I'm watching that pond, and they're so worried about nitrogen and loading and everything else, and meanwhile, they're ripping up the grass, and they're taking the shrubs down. It's devastating,
Yeah, well, it's,
and I'm trying, believe me.
yeah.
it's
And
not the
we're
only
trying
place.
too.
Sadly, it's not the
So-
only place in town this kind of thing occurs.
I'm sure it was
But Jen will give you the
The numbers.
great.
DMES, right?
Yeah.
Numbers, and they'll go out, and they have actually documented several, well, they documented this one, but they also have documented several that are ongoing, you know, with machines on the beach and so forth. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
I have one question for
Yeah.
Mrs. Dugan. As a realtor, do you, when somebody buys a house, do you inform them, look, you gotta be careful, you're in certain areas, or,
Absolutely.
and maybe the other realtors,
I can't answer for the other realtors.
Yeah.
I try, but
Yeah.
I always, whenever I'm.
but
selling
maybe through an
property,
association, get the word
Well,
out.
I will,
you know?
I did, you know how you have that, the Realtors have an association that
Yeah.
meets once a month?
They do, but
Well, I met with them last month. I did talk about what, you know, specifically why we have buffers, and then I also talked about, you know, the process of recording it with the deed and so forth.
I know you did, I happened not to be at that one. but
Yeah.
I did
But to get the information of the people that are buying the home, too.
Well, I said that.
Yeah.
Now, that's part of my
that.
presentation.
That's nature. That's
Right.
it. But who knows who does what? It's just that
Yeah.
you can, I live here, I love this town, and I try very hard to keep it courageous, to make it nice.
Yeah.
I'm one person against who knows how many who keep doing this.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. I mean, there are other people who are also trying, but
I hope not.
it. Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the table for an enforcement order, and Mike and Steve are gonna have something for us on the 14th of May, a notice of intent. All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll see you next month.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
I'll move to untable John and Priscilla Randy's Little Island Road's request to amend the order.
Second?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Good evening, we worked a little too fast for you tonight, didn't we?
You're saying you're not having much energy, you're going pretty quick.
Took me a while to get going, though. I had to have help from the audience.
Thank you for the record. My name is Tom Bunker. Prepared this plan for John Randy. Little Island Road. We've been here before, a couple of times. We a notice of intent to, started with a notice of intent, we added this addition, and a second floor here, and along the way, we did an amended order to elevate the house. For those who've been out there, you see a lot of new concrete block around there.
This is the one with the old walkway,
Excuse me?
the old dock that goes across
Yes.
sand.
There's
Yeah.
this building used to be
Yep.
on this foundation. and
Yep.
that's the walkway going out there, yeah. They're pretty well along on, this addition is closed in and the top work there. The cellar floor has been filled so that it's above the outside grade. All of that type of stuff. Flood vents have been put in. And then they thought they'd like to have a porch in this location. So we have, and there's several other little issues that have come up along the way. There's sort of a cleaning up exercise here to get some stoops and steps and things moved and whatever on there. And it's a little difficult. The new notes are in these clouds. Tried to get the new changes of these clouded notes here so you can see more of what's going on this time. And it's also a little difficult because on the prior plans, as a matter of record, there are some items which, particularly down around this deck, which were temporarily removed to elevate the house. They were not put back. I've included them as though they are there and noted that they will be removed, which really means they're not going to be put back, but that they, sort of horse trading as far as square feet of structure and impervious area. So we have the proposed porch and some steps going in this location. There were some steps on the existing deck on the water side of the house in this location coming up from the patio and over. Those will, they've been removed, but they're not going to be put back. Steps that were over here will be added to the east side of the house, what I've colored in the brown there. There was a shower at the end of the deck at the ground level in this location. That's moving landward to this location. The shower was on, there was some more patio coming up this where the shower was. Actually, the patio will be rebuilt, but in a slightly smaller footprint. It's no longer going to extend out to where the shower was. There was, when we started this, there was a set of stepping stones, all the way along this property line from front to back. Those are not going to be put back. There will be some up here to get to this doorway. No stepping stones along here. From this proposed, there was a stoop and whatever
shower. And then likewise from the bottom of these steps coming down from the deck, there'll be some stones going around the bend down to the ground level, the patio at the bottom. So there's been some movement of, a little bit of movement of, say, the structure and the steps and the shower moving away from the water, a slight bit. But there is a net increase of coverage within the A zone of the salt marsh at the bottom of the page. You have sort of the tabulation there, 252 square feet of new impervious surface within the A zone of the salt marsh, which was mostly because of the porch in this location here. So we're tripling that and planting 760 square feet of the native shrubs along the closest point along the water side near the wetland in this location. There's one cedar tree near where that porch is going. I was out there, talked with the contractor, Net Ross. Imagine if you were out there, you saw on another location at the front of the house. Hasn't been shown on this plan anymore, but actually they did a good job of protecting that cedar tree. It was at the corner of the house by the new porch on the street side. I talked with Nat, and the footing for this deck will be set in a couple of feet in both directions. So there's a cedar tree right here, corner of the deck is here, but the footing went back more, a couple feet in, and he's pretty confident that, with the deck, with the footing back in that location, the cedar tree will remain, but obviously there's 1, 2, 3, 4 branches. So the roof of that porch is going to come up about to this roof here. So there's some of these branches have to be taken off up to this point, because this branch would rest on the roof. So these 4 branches, and you can see them in this picture also, which go toward the house. That'll be the impact, but that tree will be saved, just like they've saved a lot of trees right in close to the house, so they're doing a good job. The owner wants them saved, and the contractor, everybody's doing a good job of saving them. So we have the porch there, and a few steps, intermittent stones coming down this location down toward the water. It is partly, a corner of it is in the Falmouth velocity zone. It's up on, it's up on posts. It's not enclosed underneath this porch, so that would meet the velocity zone regulations. And it's not habitable space, but it also is less than 200 square feet that's being added in there. I'll take any questions.
Most of that porch is beyond the velocity zone, though.
Yes.
No questions? 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 I'll take a motion then. Motion to close the hearing.
Thank you. I make a motion to close the hearing, take it as often.
Second.
Okay, any further comments? Okay,
Thank you.
motion closed and taken under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Well, we have most of our engineering contingent here. I'm not quite sure why, but I suppose it has to do with, we're going to vote the proposed revisions to FWR 10.38, land subject to coastal storm flowage, to incorporate the National Flood Insurance Map reference. And, okay, before you go, Mike, just to explain the process, this is going to be a 2-part process. This first part is just to get the new flood maps into the regulations. The second part of the process is to go over these regulations in some detail. I suspect that will last several months of hearings. So Jen? you
Yes,
wanna-
Madam Chairman, we did advertise them for a vote last week, but when the advertisement came out, I did notice that the last section of your current regulations wasn't included, so we re-advertised them to include the part that got inadvertently left out, although there were no changes. This is to include the new maps. There were one or two other changes in the language that FEMA had requested to go in. They did review this, so it is in compliance with what they are going to require going forward for the FEMA maps to reside solely within the wetlands regulations. And that is the language of reconstruction of any structure which has sustained substantial damage and the alterations to landform.
Okay.
We've looked at those. I did send everyone an email explaining the process, how this is so that we can do, the town can continue to participate in the flood insurance program. These maps are changing. They will go into effect July 17th.
Yeah, and our vote will be that they'll be in effect
Yes. and the
July
vote will be
17th, which
that
is
they-
also when
they
concurrent
take
with
effect,
the,
yes, when they
with
take
the
effect.
building department.
Yes, correct. We have received some comments from various engineers. Jeff Johnson from Holmes and McGrath submitted comments highlighting the alteration to landform and the reconstruction of any structure which is sustained substantial damage. Again, that's requirement by FEMA, and a few formatting errors.
Yeah, and Barbara also submitted something
Yes,
with
Barbara submitted
basically the same
some comments.
points.
So has been advertised in accordance with your regulations. Everyone has had time to submit comments prior to tonight. The vote was going to be taken tonight. These went in the paper and was sent to the various local engineering companies a few weeks ago.
Mike?
There's some things I think I should say, even though some of these would probably be applicable later. Last summer, MBL became connected with the University of Chicago, and we measured the finished floor of all the laboratory buildings down in Woods Hole. And we did it based on NGVD, National Geodetic Vertical Datum of 1929, and we measured it based on a North American vertical datum of 1988. Those are two different datums. The new maps are on NAD, National North American Vertical Datum of 1988. They don't set benchmarks anymore. What a land surveyor is supposed to do is have a GPS system. And so we set up our GPS system, and while we were at Woods Hole, there was another survey crew. It turns out that they worked for Factory Mutual. And the bottom line is we both found that the vertical difference between NAVD 88 and NGVD 29 was about 1.2 feet. FEMA says it's 0.9 in the FIS. So the first thing is you've got a sentence in there that says an engineer can determine these elevations. I don't think so. I think that when it comes down to it, you have to set the piece of GPS up and observe the satellites. So I urge you to make a requirement that whenever you get a plan, it describes to you how they determined NAVD 88. I reported the difference to the state, and what the state asked me to do is go back and do observations. What we do with our GPS is that if there's a certain number of stars, satellites we call stars, we subscribe to a series of stations that are continually broadcasting. That's called RTK, Real-Time Kinematic Surveys. So we set up in about 10 minutes, we will have the error be very small. What they asked me to do is disconnect that and do it what I call the old-fashioned way, probably 3 years ago. We just set up for 4 hours. I'm not getting paid for that. I'll do it eventually. I'm too busy to be going out there to Woods Hole and doing the 4-hour observation because it's a very expensive piece of equipment. I'm not going to leave it there. Someone's got to sit next to it. But my point is that I'm not the only land surveyor that's reporting this. So I think it's important you have the plan stamped by a PLS and that they describe to you how they determined it. The trick is that if someone just used a .9 and they build a structure in Woods Hole and then someone comes along with and does it with the GPS, they may find that the building floor is too low.
A foot discrepant.
So, and 3/10 is a lot. I mean, surveyors are focused. The other thing is that we've downloaded the maps. The maps are, I forget the bottom line is when you download the maps, you can blow the map up. So I brought a full-scale version of the map, and I have you can blow it up on your screen. When you blow it up, the line gets thick. So my point is that if you think about it, the applicant should be giving you the full thickness of the line that's shown on the map. I have an example here. There's some, I did not realize that you were going to do this in 2 steps, so I have a bunch of other things here, but I thought the most important thing is to bring out early. I will say, I probably want to say something that's sort of an editorial comment. When I first heard about this, I went back and I read the flood insurance study in 1975, and there were 2 storms of record that was described. But those maps didn't add anything for the rise of the ocean. So for instance, from the hurricane of 38 till today, the ocean's come up almost 9 inches. They're justified to add the foot. My office goes from just above the floodplain to 20 inches in the floodplain, so where'd the other foot come from? I interviewed a firm called OCC, they're Ocean and Coastal Consultants, and they reported, their office is down in Connecticut, they reported that in Hurricane Sandy, the hurricane effects at the shore were not up to 100 years. But the water got stacked inland, so it did reach the 100 year. That is called wave setup. So I just wanted to say that there is some sound basis for the extra additional elevation that's been put in. And I also want to tell you that when you look at these maps, I don't know if you've all looked at the maps, but you can look at them, you can blow them up online. They're on the aerial photographs, and you can see these lines. And I gave an example here. If you add 25 feet, which is going to be a holdover from the old tolerances, and I gave you 4 examples of houses in West Falmouth. I don't work for them. I just picked them out, that adding the 25 feet brings them into a velocity zone. So I urge you to strike that, because that's going to be...
That'll be a whole...
All right, but I'm bringing this up early.
I think
Yeah.
I have some issues with holding that over, but I think there's another way we can compensate for that.
All right, and the final thing I wanted to tell you was that I had a client who basically paid an insurance actuary to figure all this stuff out. And one of the things that I found out was that FEMA is going to be, or was going to charge to try and recoup all the money they've spent on, for instance, Hurricane Sandy and several of the others. So I was exceedingly worried about our taxable appraised value of the whole town, because unless we make it easy, I think we could see that the inland portions of the floodplain, we might lose significant value. The Congress did vote the subsidy. My friends will be shocked to hear me support a subsidy, but the money that FEMA spent on Hurricane Sandy included things like fixing the New York City subway. So I do support the subsidy. One of the things that the actuary told my friend was that all there'll be no subsidies for second houses. So I was very worried about the appraised value of our town, which is our tax bills. So I urge you to make this as easy as possible. I made a suggestion in this letter that based on what happened in Hurricane Bob, you should have a provision that says this is what happens in a hurricane. What you did in Hurricane Bob was anything, there was a whole bunch of emergency certificates if you had minor damage or considered to be minor damage, if you repaired away from the shore on Surf Drive, or if you had real significant storm damage, you had to come in and file a notice, so I put that in there too. So I'm sorry I have a complete laundry list there, but so be it. I hope you can use this.
No, that's a
that's
great start.
excellent.
That's a great start.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Guess you won't read full. I brought you all.
Well, the people who aren't here should get copies as well. Court?
Yeah, I just, while you're up there, Mike, you raised the issue that if you blow these maps up, you know, the line gets fatter. So if you're calculating the landward edge of the flood line, then are you saying that would be the landward side of that fat line?
No, what I'm saying is that when you draw a plan from now on,
You want a pen?
I mean, wouldn't that be logical?
no, what I'm saying to you is that we can take, let's say there's some physical features that we can take from the maps and put them on our survey. And let's say that this is our house lot lines. And when we bring it in, there's a line that goes like this and it's that thick. That's how we should be drawing it from now on, I believe. So if the thing is 20 foot thick on the map, we should bring it in 20 foot.
But where's the point at which you get to the jurisdiction? The landward edge of that fat line?
He's saying if the,
Oh, you're worried about
if the whole line goes through the house, for instance,
If you're
part of the
saying that-
line is in front of the house and part of it's in the house.
Well, obviously it would be your landward edge.
That's all I wanted to know.
That was the answer to his question
No,
was
You
landward
just
edge.
answered my question.
That's in a velocity zone. Now, in an A zone, you do it by elevation. on the ground.
No, I understand, but if we're dealing with a FEMA
Yeah.
map that,
There's a recent ruling by the Board of Registration that implies you're supposed to draw it that way. So we just drew one in Bourne. There was the whole lot's, but the line is shorter than we drew it like
okay.
Mike, when was that ruling?
that. The Board of Registration, I don't know, in the last year. It implies it.
No, this is something we'll discuss.
Yeah, no, I just needed to get
No.
this feeling on it. Okay,
Anything else?
you've answered my
No,
question.
thanks, Mike. This is a,
Madam Chairman, one other thing with the
And
regs.
wait a second. I just want to urge the other engineers, because I know you all have some various comments about various points also that are in the present regs and that perhaps might be changed or something additional. It would really be useful if we got this in the next couple of weeks. And then what we can do is incorporate some stuff, have a document for people to look at, and have something to work on. So, as many suggestions as you have, we would appreciate them. Yes, Jen?
The only other thing with the regs, Madam Chairman, is there was a small section in the DCPC regs that needed to be revised too. reflect the new maps.
Right, the new,
And that was
Maps.
advertised as well.
right.
But you'll have to vote them separately, the changes to FWR 1038 and then the changes to FWR 1039.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments for tonight? Mike?
Just two questions.
Okay.
One, I'm not a land surveyor, but I had a question if you could ask Mr. McGrath about the fat line.
Yep.
When you blow up the line and it becomes, if you blow it up from 1 inch equals 500 to 1 inch equals 20, the line becomes very fat. Why wouldn't you just continue to use the middle of the fat line, the center line of the fat line, if you will? Just a question. And then my only other question is, when are you going to talk about the second phase? Have you set a date for when you're going to start discussing that? Public
Sometime
hearings.
in May,
May?
May? Okay.
Yep.
probably, because we're only meeting one other time in April to do town meeting and scheduling, so we'll be all back together in May.
Thank you.
If you look at the last sheet of my letter, the floodplain maps are 1 inch equals 500. So what we did here is plot this at 1 inch equals 200. And I don't think the line's actually that thick.
I mean, I think the answer to Mike's question is, I mean, it's just,
We'll have Peter
it's
look at
being
it,
most,
too.
you're being
I think-
conservative. You're being most conservative
Well,
doing
the
that.
way that I looked at it is that, that should be drawn in a way that it represents what the mapper thought was the most lateral extent of a 3-foot wave.
Right.
Because the mapping here is much more precise than what's ever been done before. It's been done with a system called LiDAR. Every meter, there's an observation of the ground surface, and it's within less than 4 inches. So that's described in the letter. So these should be pretty, well, very close. And so they're not that thick, they're like 20 feet. The reason I showed it at Bourne was that we're repairing a septic system, and they allowed me to put the septic system in a velocity zone because the new velocity zone was landward. So that's the reason I showed it at Bourne, with the town's blessing.
So you mean it would have been in the velocity zone either way?
No,
but-
no, it's in a velocity zone today, but in July, where the septic system repair is going to not be in a
Oh,
velocity.
not be, okay.
Yeah, there's,
I know there's some places,
I have 5 or 6 clients in Falmouth that are helped when the velocity zone gets changed.
yeah.
I have a couple where it's lower, it's definitely low.
Yeah, and other people who were probably lucky that we had the 2-foot elevation requirement.
Well, that's been in the building code.
Yeah,
for
but I mean,
4 or 5 years.
but it's good.
This is very complicated material if you think about it. We have to make it as simple as possible and get people to elevate is the answer.
Back to you brought up a great question. First, the property line has no thickness, as I understand it. You're one side of a property line and another. There is no thickness. You can't say, I'm saying the property line is 2 feet thick and so I'm okay. And I would assume the velocity line is based on some mathematics that says this is where the velocity line is. So the notion of a thickness to a velocity line seems to imply some error bar. We really don't know where this thing is, so we're showing it some width. Is that what we're getting from?
But it's not, a property line is a much more definite measurement than, these are probabilities, right?
This is, what happens is that when you, when you calculate where a wave goes, you create a measured transect that extends out into the water for whatever is an appropriate distance for the engineer, and then there's a very now complicated formula that predicts where the wave will go. It used to be that they only worried about simple physics, meaning that you have to, the height of the wave at any point is 78% of the depth of the water. It's still water. Now they add momentum. So the bottom line is that I think that the most reasonable thing is for everybody to show that those velocity zone lines as a thick line. Just the same as what they depicted on the
doesn't-
map.
We can get back to it, because it still loses me. I mean, you're.
Well, he's just saying, this is what we're given.
Yeah.
This is what you're given.
Well, then it's either one side or the other, or the middle, or some,
But
maybe it's, maybe
he
it's.
just said, you should put the whole line on, and he agreed with Courtney that it would be the landmost part of that line,
Would be a jurisdiction.
would be the velocity zone for that piece of property.
You're good, as a practice of what you're
Is
saying,
that-
you're gonna have you're expanding things there. I mean, I'm just,
No, I'm not expanding things, I don't think. The bottom line is that, the other thing that I know, that when people, well, I did a transect in West Falmouth, and what I got was the waves got so high that West Falmouth Harbor, according to FEMA, was supposed to be a foot lower. So I didn't add any wave setup. I drew it so it flowed around. And so then I get involved with controversy, after controversy with a mapper, a consultant for FEMA that said, no, it's just gonna stack up. We don't accept that could be lower, even though their study says it's lower. So you get these opinions. So my attitude is, you should be shown the thickness of the line. Because people should still have the right to try and do LOMRs, L-O-M-R, letter of map revision.
Mike, you and I seem to be in agreement that the most conservative way to interpret that line is to use the landward edge of it, which to me makes a
Well,
lot
and that
of
would have
logical
been my
sense.
answer to you.
Courtney,
But-
I'd like a time to review Mr. McGrath's letter before we start.
Yeah, but I just want to add one question.
Talking about.
Well,
What
one
does,
of 'em
what does, what does FEMA itself say about that?
All right. Let me tell you something. I called FEMA every
Make it
2
really
days
brief,
for
okay?
a month. I had to go to a hearing in Boston, and the first thing I said to the FEMA guys, why don't you answer the phone? He said, because of the sequester, we don't answer phones.
No, but I mean,
That's the
this
first
is,
time the public's heard that.
what is important here, and granted, this is outside of what we're gonna, the more limited thing that we're gonna approve tonight, but it becomes hugely important to people who are paying insurance, people who are going to build, remodel, or do any activity. The question becomes, where is that magical point? A property line is a property line, and it's between 2 points. And so when you draw it, it could be, depending on the scale, it could be no wider than a piece of silk thread,
But,
or the hair on your head.
Courtney,
But-
if you look at this,
No, I
Don't
understand.
get personal.
if you look at this, it's very clear whether you're in or out. If it touches your house, you're in. So it's,
No, I
very
understand.
You know what? This is something for another day. We're moving on. Are there any other comments?
Thank you.
Could I have a motion on the table that will accept the first part of the revision to 10.38?
That is my motion.
Thank you.
May I have a second?
You got it.
2 seconds. A motion in 2 seconds. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept the change in 10.38 that reflects the new maps, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Could I have a motion on the table to accept the change in the language in FWR 10.39 that reflects the new FEMA flood maps?
So move.
Second?
You got it.
A motion and a second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Are you here for voting order conditions? Oh, I don't have a problem with that. That's what we got, what we finally got. 67 Quonset Road. This is vote orders of conditions.
Quonset, your quorum, apology. This is the.
Same quorum, just the four of us.
This is the project along, Quonset Road. Maria Hickey
Right,
presented to you.
last week.
Vegetation removal. We did go out and meet with Maria. It's gonna be a very targeted removal of invasives because that bank, unlike the two other properties, does have a significant native plant community and presence in there. So it's gonna be very selectively targeted. So that'll be a special condition. It's not gonna be mechanically removed, hand removal, target, and then replant.
Yep.
Where it was different on the two adjacent parcels. 'Cause
Correct.
those banks were completely stripped.
I'll move that we approve the order as presented and discussed.
Second?
Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to approve the project as presented and discussed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Lot 2, Gunning Point Road.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is the proposal to construct a single-family residence at Lot 2 Gunning Point.
Okay, I think you should make a finding that there is a coastal bank, but it's a
Yes, we
fragmented
need-
coastal bank. There is a portion of the coastal bank, which is in the velocity zone, and the buffer to that coastal bank will have some minor impact. And I think you should require the 10-foot limit of work.
Velocity,
There's a little corner, if you're looking at the property, it's on the
Yeah.
right-hand side.
Right, 10-foot limit of work.
Should be a 10-foot limit of work, and any trees removed within 50 feet of that top of the bank there should be replaced.
By same caliper, or how are we doing that?
I think there's a lot of trees on that lot, just tree for tree,
No, I think we
well, if you're not
pick a
gonna,
minimum caliper width.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think there may be one or two trees over in there, John.
I think there were 3.
The most important finding is the fact that it's a fragmented coastal bank, that it's not eroding, that.
And the applicant overcame.
Yeah, the applicant
Overcame the
that
presumptions.
presumption, yeah.
if you wanna overcome the presumptions, you need to make findings that the salt pond is in between.
Yeah, all those,
Okay.
Tom,
All that stuff.
Susan did a great job. She got all Tom's discussion.
Yep.
She did. I'm impressed.
Just look at the notes.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Recommend to Coastal Bank of velocity, it does have a 50-foot.
A 10-foot limit of work.
You know, it faces,
Faces salt pond.
it isn't regularly impacted by waves.
Okay.
Anything else?
How is the denitrification system left? Were they proposing to use it or not use it?
Well, they proposed it, you suggested that may not be appropriate at that site.
May not be necessary. I don't think it'll ever hurt. Is it?
I don't think it would hurt.
I don't think it-
I would recommend that they do it, as-
You know,
as
that's fine with me.
mitigation for the-
I just,
changing some trees.
We ready for a motion? I'll move that
Jen,
we-
do you have enough?
Yep. I'll look in the, I think I understand where the board wants to go, and I'll look in
The minutes?
minutes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the project and the order as proposed and discussed in particular with the findings regarding the coastal bank.
second?
Oh, and also the 10-foot limit of work.
Okay, motion the second on the table to accept, the order is discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Grand Ave, this is the handicap ramp.
On the beach, finding that it was one of the, what's the term I'm looking for, not options, but one of the.
Sort of
beach
plan.
Committee's, beach management plan to allow the,
Yeah,
to improve handicap access to
Right.
as many of the town beaches as possible.
Right.
So the board was well aware that these types of projects were gonna come in.
Yep, and this is
This
a
is nice.
perfectly
It's as close to
reasonable
that
place. Yep,
concrete wall as possible. It doesn't extend perpendicular out into the beach. It's
Yep.
Parallel
to
Yep.
the
to-
wall.
yep,
Right.
good design.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I'll move that we approve the order as presented and discussed.
Second?
Okay, motion the second on the table for, to approve Grand Ave. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Lot 160, Nashon Circle. This is the amendment that they came back and they reduced the extent of the amendment.
They reduced the extent of the amendment. I do believe there's still, a increase in impervious surface over the original design.
I would agree. So the
You
question,
have a proposed.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I don't care if they reduced it from the original amendment request.
Right.
You need to compare
They
the
did in-
amendment to the original design.
right, and they did increase it, but I don't think it,
The way the board should look at it is, do you think it's gonna have
no.
more of an adverse effect on the resource areas than the original design?
No, it's all within
No,
the
then-
original limit of
Then I
work.
think this board would be safe to issue an amendment.
Yeah,
I would agree, and I mean, I think that's the finding.
I mean, the regulations have changed. It would be very difficult at this point to build on that lot with your current regulations. This isn't gonna have any more of an effect out there.
right,
Right.
Than what they already
Raoul
have
did
permission
submit-
to do.
yeah,
What they already
they've
have.
already permitted.
right.
And Raoul did send those calculations that I requested to me. I don't think I've put them in the record yet, but they will be placed in the record.
Yeah, and you didn't
But-
send them to us like Susan very carefully put in the minutes that you were
I
gonna
was
send them
gonna
to
send
us.
them to you, I understand that was Friday, and I will forward those to you tomorrow for your review.
But I made the assumption, we all
But
know,
I'm
we
just
all
gonna
know
say,
what
Raoul
assumptions.
did send
I
me
made the
information.
assumption that you looked.
I did.
So we comfortable in
We are.
approving okay, then I will make a motion that we approve the, an order for an amended order of conditions as presented and discussed, with a finding that the degree of change is not
Will
significant.
not cause any more adverse impact.
It will
than
not
was
cause any
already
more
permitted.
adverse effect, right?
Those words,
absolutely.
the exact words
Took
that
the words right out of my mouth.
will not,
Should we make sure
Cost
that
more.
we mention that that was a revised plan, that was revised from the original?
Oh, yeah, that'll be in the
Okay.
amendment, that,
Yeah.
that this is an amendment from the original DEP,
Yep,
and that this board finds that the,
but we
the
had two
request-
separate plans from
Oh,
him.
Well, that-
we'll
Yeah,
take
it's
care
the
of that.
second
Yeah.
plan.
We
Yeah.
always cite the
Second.
last,
Okay.
the
And
latest
just
plan.
cite the date.
Yeah.
That's,
We're very careful. We cite the revised dates and all the plans. Melanie double checks it.
Cool.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Mike looks confused.
I'll second it.
Motion and second on the table to approve this
amended.
amended project as discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous, so moved. 96 Alder Lane.
That's why you're here.
We all remember this one? This was another one where,
Hang on.
Weekend warrior.
I don't-
where
This is the deck one.
coming in saying, we can't remember what the, we didn't know we had these regulations. Were you here early enough to hear that today?
Oh, no, was that tonight?
We had that again tonight.
Yeah, we didn't know the gun was loaded, right?
We didn't know.
My guy really didn't know.
We've
Oh,
lived
I
here,
know, they all,
They never
we've
know.
lived
They never
here
know.
for 8 years now, and we didn't know there were any regulations in Falmouth.
My
It
guy-
only took me 1 year to figure out there were
We
regulations
don't
in
really
Falmouth.
buy-
The
We
people
don't really
my
buy
guy
any
should
of
have
that.
trusted, the real estate brokers, the title examiner, the attorneys,
Well, that was
the shed.
the next
clearing,
discussion.
All that stuff.
right. But at any rate, it came back, Barbara came back. Barbara also came back a second time, but when she came back the second time, she requested something that,
Barbara, you don't have a 10-foot separation between your proposed deck and your
Well,
proposed
I do,
mitigation.
I thought it would count for the house, 10 feet from off the house as opposed to the deck
No,
that's
no.
elevated.
Nah, it counts on the deck.
Okay.
well, you
know
can
I know.
squeeze things to the
I
side,
can
can't
spread
you?
them out and
Yeah.
give you 10 feet.
That can be a condition. And actually,
Clean up your yard debris.
Yep, that's already been discussed.
and I think there should, given when we have to come back again for mitigation planning, I think there should be a delineation between where the plantings are and where lawn or whatever you want is.
You can have.
He would like to have plantings right up to the deck, he doesn't want any of them.
Oh, he wants them up to the deck?
There's no room.
There's no room.
Well, he's allowed to put them up to the deck,
Yeah,
but,
he doesn't
No.
want one.
10-foot offset. From any structure.
no, people can plant within that 10 feet, but it's not counted as mitigation
Not
planting.
counted as mitigation, correct.
But I would like some kind of a boundary.
Sure.
Anything else? I'll move to approve an order for this project as discussed.
second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
See, isn't that painless? It's painless, isn't it?
Are we ready? Any other business?
I'll move to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
2 seconds.
Make it 3.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. The amount of paper we generate.